Okay, so here's the second part of chapter 2. I want to call your attention again to page 29. And as Miller says, the final and most sophisticated step in the creation of totally original content that makes good use of what the new medium has to offer and does not imitate older forms. And here you'll see an image. I'll just start playing it. The sound's turned off. From The Guild, which is the web series and comic book transmedia series that we are going to be viewing and talking about as we progress through the semester. This actually is a transmedia series that was created by Felicia Days, based on her experience playing with an MMOG group called The Guild in this particular series. And so this is taking advantage in content and in delivery with what the internet has to offer. And so we'll be talking about this in more depth as we get there. So, the rest of the chapter really gets into the profound effect that the internet has had on Hollywood and different kinds of entertainment delivery systems that we've used in the past. And we're going to be talking about that a lot, especially the way that like DVRs and other digital devices have had an effect on the scale, pace, or pattern. Remember McLuhan, we're going to keep going back to McLuhan all semester, on the way in which we consume entertainment. I'm sure most of us watch more movies off of our phones and our tablets and our computers now than we do on our smart TVs than we do from regular TV programming or from going to the actual movie theater and paying for a ticket and sitting down there. So these changes in the consumption of entertainment have had a real impact on the way in which not only that we as audience members consume our entertainment and our stories, but the way in which the people who make these sources of entertainment go about, earning a livelihood from the entertainment that they produce that we consume. And that impacts what we see and what they talk about in the episodes. You're going to notice probably, first of all, that, and as you can tell from the screenshot here, that's just going still, that there's been a huge impact on budgets and how people go about creating entertainment. The good thing about this is that this series and the other transmedia series that we're going to be watching are based off of free platforms. So, the promise of the internet is that anyone can get on the internet and be creative, to write their own stories, garner an audience. But the truth of the matter is that unlike Jane Austen, who was using a quill pen and had paper, her, budget costs were the same whether she had one character or 400 characters, whether those characters wore rags or whether they wore Louis Vuitton, because all she had to invest money in was the pen, the ink, the paper, and her time. Today, when you're talking about transmedia series, you have to have actors, you have to have costumes, you have to have camera crews and, boom operators, and there's just a list of people that go on and on and on and on and on, or else you have a very low budget production that nobody will watch because it doesn't look good. So, even though, yes, we have a lot more creativity and freedom these days, when it comes to getting our works out onto the internet in ways where the delivery system is free, it does have some new limitations, I guess we could say, that we're going to be talking about as we go forward. So, we do have multi-platform strategies. Basically what a multi-platform strategy is that you no longer just deliver your stories off of one platform. You deliver them off of 2, 3, 4, 5 or more platforms. And The Guild, it is a transmedia platform in that we have the web series, we also have the comic books, and then there are ancillary videos that they put out on other platforms that help to make up the entire series. And then if you're going to get the total effect of the series, you have to be watching them all. So I think it's interesting that our book calls our attention to the fact that what people use now to view their media is called second screen TV. And that's an umbrella term that covers cell phones and laptops, um, contests that are run, multiple kinds of digital content that is delivered in a variety of ways. The Guild takes advantage of a lot of this as well. So they do this in order to make the shows more attractive to young viewers, to keep viewers interested in the show, and to attract new viewers, and also to take advantage of the new ways in which we are able to watch our entertainment. You can find that bullet list on page 33. So this is called disruptive media, where we have this media that is basically coming in and disrupting old delivery systems, old ways that we used to watch and consume our entertainment, and bringing in new ways for us to interact with our media. So another thing that they do is a lot of advert gaming. And this is, as the book explains on page 34, a form of casual gaming that integrates a product into the game and is often set in a narrative frame. We see this a lot now, where not only is a product featured within a series, like say, a character would be holding a can of Coke. Then, in addition to that, we might have where Coca-Cola actually runs a themed giveaway that highlights their product as well as promotes the story that we're watching, that we're consuming. And so that has become an integral part of the way that we interact with our media. Another way is to have like raffles and things, or polls in the middle of a show where you're actually sitting there and interacting with the virtual world that you are watching. So after you finish reading chapter number 2, and do read the entire thing, I'm going to keep stressing that watching these videos is not enough if you're going to be passing this class. The quiz will have questions on it, not only from the video, but also from the chapter itself. And it will be timed, so be ready when you start it. But so after you finish watching this chapter, what you're going to be doing next is watching Lost in Austen. And again, you only need to watch episode 1. And you can see here on my screen that there's 2 parts to episode 1. So episode 1, part 1, and episode 1, part 2. If you're watching on YouTube, on Hulu and Netflix, I think it just comes up as episode 1. But, be aware of that you only need to be watching about 30, 40 minutes of Lost in Austen, not the entire series, unless you get interested and you want to keep watching it. And what I want you to pay attention to as you're watching Lost in Austen is the way in which the main character runs into problems as she is transported back into Austen's time, because the technology, the extensions of her body changes, and she's unable to interact freely or in the same way in her new environment she was in her 21st century life. So just imagine that and pay attention to those details as you're watching. Imagine if you were suddenly transported back to the year 1812, and in England, where there were no cars, there were no cell phone coverages, where the clothes were completely different, where the toothbrush is completely different, where the way you use your language is completely different. Remember, these are all extensions. Anything that is not made by our body is a technology. So the very language that I'm speaking right now, that you're listening to, is its own sort of technology, and it shapes the way in which we live our lives. And so do watch the main character as she tries to navigate speaking with people who don't understand, some of the words that she uses, and that she doesn't understand some of the words that they use. The way in which they view her because her clothing is different. The way in which she has trouble just navigating simple, again, social settings that are influenced by technology, like writing, like eating, like everything in her life. These are all extensions. And so this will help you as you're watching the video to start thinking differently about the 12 chapters from Sanditon that you read for last week. And that will help you to start thinking again about how you're going to answer the questions for your homework, especially number 2. It says, imagine yourself going through a normal day, but as if you lived in Sanditon, England, circa 1817, the time and setting of Austen's novel that you read. Remember, you read that already. So based on the details provided in that novel, what types of technology do you see in that novel? In other words, extensions that you would use, and how would they change the scale, pace, or pattern of your day? This is an important assignment. It's worth up to 10 points. So do write a paragraph to answer that. Use 1 or 2 examples. And think deeply about how they would change the scale, like how they would change, how far you could go in a day or what you can do, the pace, how slowly or quickly your day would go, and the pattern. What sort of ways would you have to alter how you navigate the world? What kinds of steps would you have to go through if, for example, your car was taken away and instead you were driving a carriage? What would you do to take care of your horse? So this is what you should be thinking about when you're answering this question and referring back to Sanditon, the novel that we read. You will need to also answer number 3, which says create a word blog post about how technology changes the scale, pace, or pattern of characters in Lost in Austen, as well as in the article that you need to read, The Real Housewives of Jane Austen. Okay? So good luck, and I look forward to reading your homework. The quiz and probably one more video will be up tomorrow. Okay? So keep checking back. Also, the links for all the assignments will be there. Okay.